what does the Bible say about our relationship to God and his creation? How was it intended to be? And then I think there's another question for us today, which is what should a Christian response be to the current ecological crisis? Because the Bible obviously doesn't speak about the current ecological crisis because there wasn't one then.
Sure.
So what is there at the beginning? How do we respond today? So in terms of why there was a disconnect for me or why there is a disconnect for others, I think there's a few things. I really wasn't aware. I wasn't aware of how much people's lives, particularly around the world, are so affected by the climate crisis. Because in the West, we live quite a separate life from nature. Aren't so many of us who grow our own food anymore. So we don't notice in the same way if we've got erratic rain. We're not paying attention of how it affects others. Interesting history of how mass consumer capitalism has really deliberately separated us from the roots of our food, particularly. So I think there is this aspect that we don't know, and we are isolated from those things. The resources that go into growing our food. I mean, food is one aspect of this. There are many aspects, but certainly, I mean, for those who may have tried growing their own food or do grow their own food, suddenly your food becomes really valuable when you've been the one who's grown it, when you've cared for it, when you've gone out and plucked off snails so they don't get eaten. Suddenly, your value for that food, you want everybody to eat everything that's on the plate. You don't want any waste because you've worked hard for that. So that separation. We've got busy lives. I'm not thinking about how much rainfall we've had, how that might affect crops. That's not what I think about on a daily basis. But I think that blind spot in our lifestyles, our connection to nature, has kind of crept in to become a bit of a blind spot in our theology too.
Sure.
And because a lot of churches celebrate harvest still. Yet actually in farming communities, harvest is a much bigger moment in the calendar than it is particularly in urban environments, for example. Even in our church celebrations, are we really understanding and thanking God for the harvest? So I think the less we do that, we get this blind spot that has grown in our theology. We don't talk about nature in the same way. We live in an individualistic society. So that creeps into our theology too. It's about me and my relationship with God.